Which way are you looking? Are you looking towards the way that God said you should go? Or are you listening to another voice that says, come and just eat and drink? Not knowing you're not going to only live alone, but you're going to live with a donkey that is then going to survive, but the enemy is going to devour you. The words that you say about your life, they can either build you or break you. But also, do not say things that you yourself are not willing to endure. Greetings once again and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up, right? Now, keep in mind, guys, that you are now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, as well as on Overcast, and you can be sure to find us on any of those 6 different platforms. Now, keep in mind as well, guys, that you are now available on TikTok at sinner_saved_by_grace, and you can be sure to find us as well on that platform. Now, also, guys, for the last one, you can find us on YouTube, and this is to the podcast team, right? You can find us on YouTube at Ashley Gerera, and you can be sure to follow us as well on that platform. Now, today, guys, we are going to be talking about your words can come back and haunt you. Your words have power, right? Whatever it is that you say, be careful, for one day it will come back and haunt you. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm excited for this topic and I can't wait for us to go deep into it right now. So for you to find out more, stick around. Now, without wasting further time, guys, we are going to be reading from the book of 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1, right? 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1, and it reads as follows. And Elijah the Tishbite, who was one of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. Now, as we've just read, guys, the Bible then tells us that Elijah, the prophet of God, or the man of God rather, he comes to the point and he says, you know what, as the Lord liveth, right, there will not be dew, there will be no rain. But what made him to do this thing? Because you can't just get to your place and be like, okay, as long as there's not going to be rain, there's not going to be dew upon the land. What was happening before that? Now, if we take a look back at the previous chapters, now if you haven't read them, I'll urge you to go and read them, guys. Go and read them so that you can understand where we're coming from. So people were now doing evil in the land, and people were going after other gods, and all of these things, all these type of kings that were coming through were going after other gods, creating molten images, sacrificing on high places to other gods. So then when Elijah then comes, and you come to now chapter 17, right? Then he says, you know what? All these things that have been happening, this is going to be the cause of it, right? And he says that there is not going to be rain, there's not going to be dew upon the land. And this is what we just read in the first verse of chapter 17, right? Now, also, if you go further with the verse, then the Bible then tells us that God then told him, you know what, now that you've said these things, now another thing, guys, that I just want us to keep in mind, these words that Elijah had said did not come from God. He did not say this because God had said, go and tell the people this. No, these were just the words that he said on his own, and we're going to get to that at the end of the video, right? So stick around to find out more. What then happens when you say things out of not saying, or when God does not say you should say those things, right? So stick around until the end of the video to find out more. But for now, guys, then God tells him, you know what, go eastward and go to the brook. Now, some of you don't know what a brook looks like, so I'll leave the picture right here and you can see it right now on the screen. This is what a brook looks like, guys, to those that didn't know. But anyway, back to the story of today, guys. We're saying that Elijah, God then tells him, go to the brook, right? Go there, and that is where I am going to feed you. Now, the source that God uses to feed Elijah, guys, God uses ravens. And you see this in the Bible, where then God says that he used ravens to feed him bread, milk, flesh, and all these things. And he only had 2 meals. Now, a question then comes to you today. Maybe just an out of context question. How many meals do you have per day? Perhaps we're supposed to have 2 meals, perhaps supposed to have more. I don't know. But, you know, for today, guys, the Bible tells us that Elijah was having 2 meals, one in the morning, one at evening. So, I don't know, how many meals are you having today? But that's a story for another day, guys. So, what then can we get from this whole story of Elijah? Heaven have said things that he said on his own. But there's something that I like, guys. This guy comes with authority, you know. When he says this thing, he says, as the Lord liveth. Guys, this reminds me of another person, which was David, right? And as he comes to fight Goliath, he says, you come to me with a spear, with a shield, and with all these things, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. So now when Elijah, before he says whatever he wanted to say, right, already he has put God first before anything that he wants to say afterwards, right? But guys, we dive deep into that another day. But for today, what then lessons can we get from this story of Elijah? Now remember, guys, our topic for today says that whatever you say will come back and haunt you. And remember, we also said that God works with your words. So now point number 1 then says that if God could make such a provision for Elijah, heaven had said such negative words, right? What more can he do for you if you say positive words? Remember, we said that God can only work with what you say in your life. So what words are you saying for yourself today? Think about it, guys. What words are you saying? God was not going to put or stop the rain from coming had Elijah not said it. Keep that in mind, guys. If Elijah did not say, okay, there's not going to be rain, there's not going to be dew, God was not going to stop the rain and the dew to keep on coming, right? So what words are you saying to yourself today? God can only work with the words that you say. So keep that in mind, guys, and start saying better things, positive words about your life. And that is our first message for today. Now for the next ones, guys, your words determine the type of source that God uses to feed you, right? Keep that in mind. Because Elijah had said there is not going to be rain or dew, God had to use ravens. Guys, God had to use ravens. Now another person then says that ravens only are seen in a place where they eat dead things, dead carcasses and all of that, right? Now some of you don't know what a raven looks like, so this is what a raven looks like, right? So you can see this type of animal, you can see how crooked it looks, right? And God says that he can only use such animals in certain situations. God could not have used a dove, because people were going to see a dove and say, okay, where are doves located? Why are doves going to that place, right? And people were going to follow and find Elijah in that place, right? So God could not use doves and all of those things. So the words that you say, guys, keep in mind, God would then use the type of source that feeds into the words that you have said. So what words are you using that can end up coming back to haunt you? Now the other one, do not say things that you yourself are not willing to endure. Elijah was not exempt from experiencing also the consequences of the no rain and no dew. He was not exempt from that, for he also had to experience those things. Now you might end up saying things for other people, but keep in mind, do not say things that you yourself you are not willing to endure and to also go through, right? Another one, guys, God uses the least expected medium to bring your blessings to you. Now, as we talked about this, guys, the ravens, God used ravens to feed Elijah. I don't know what situation you've been put in today, guys, but God uses certain things. Some things you might be looking at yourself today and saying, me, to go there and work there, for me to even go and eat that, I cannot do that, right? And you look into yourself and you say, no, I cannot be involved with such things. But keep in mind, guys, that sometimes God uses such things for it to be a blessing for you. Had Elijah stopped and said, I'm not going to eat food from the ravens, guess what? He was going to starve, right? So then also God says he will provide for you according to his riches, right? So keep also in mind, guys, there are certain things that God will use to provide for you, but also yourself. Do not exalt yourself and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this type of thing. Me, to be found doing that, never. It can never be me, right? But also keep in mind, God uses certain things that we least expect to bring blessings to you. Now, another one, guys, now we can go to, as we are wrapping this up, right, we can go to verse 7 and verse 8. It says that, and when the brook dried up, guys, if we read verse 7 and 8, it says that when the brook dried up, there comes a time where things God had blessed you with, right? There come a time where those things dry up as well. But does that mean that is the end of it? Now your life is ended, or everything has now come to a stop, and now you're just gonna die? No, guys. if we read verse 7 and 8, it says that in the Bible, when the brook dried up, God said to Elijah, rise up and go. You know, there are certain times where you're stuck in certain situations and you're thinking to yourself, this thing was working before, but now it is no longer working. Remember, the brook has dried up. It is time for you to stand up and leave. There are certain relationships that some of you are stuck in, right? And those relationships are toxic for you. And you're thinking to yourself, no, we've been together for so long. But keep in mind, the brook has dried up. Keep in mind of that, guys. No amount of prayer. When God told him, right, when the brook dried up, Elijah did not stay there and start saying, God, bring the rain, or God, make this brook to start flowing again, and all of those things. No, but he understood that the brook has dried up and God has said, I should rise up and go. So there are certain situations or certain instances that you find yourself in, praying for things that are dead, right? Praying for things that have been dried up. But keep in mind, guys, there comes a certain situation. I don't know what situation you are in today, but if you understand, I'm sure you will understand what I'm saying if this message is directed to you. Whatever it is that is dried up in your life, it is time for you to stand up, to rise up and stand up and go. Now, another thing, guys, that we can then go for, and this is now the end of it, right? And you can go to verse 9. Verse 9 then tells us as well that God does not send you to a place. Now, when God is speaking to Elijah, he says there is a widow woman who is in that place. Rise up and go to Zarephath, right? When you go there, there is a widow woman that is waiting for you there, that is going to give you provision and a place to stay. Now, another point that we can get there, guys, is that God does not send you to a place where he has not prepared a place for you already. He will not send you to a place where he now says rise up and go, only for you to get stuck in that place. No, guys. God does not operate in that way. So have you been sent to places? Perhaps that was not God that sent you to places that you got stuck in. But when God sends you to a certain place, he says that there is a widow there that is going to take care of you, right? He didn't even need to struggle for accommodation. Think about it, guys. He didn't even need to struggle for accommodation. Now, if it is from God, he will make a way for you. And that is the end of our message for today, guys. So keep in mind of these things as you go on about your life. God does not just do things, but he works with your words. What are you saying to yourself today? What is it that you're saying to yourself today, right? Keep in mind, when you say negative words, God will use certain provisions that actually work along with the words that you had said. The rain and the dew was going to keep falling had Elijah not said the words that he said, right? So keep in mind, the words that you say about your life, they can either build you or break you. But also, do not say things that you yourself are not willing to endure. For Elijah himself was not spared of the drought that was in the land. So when you say certain things, be willing to live for them. Be willing to survive through them. Because, guys, it's not just going to surpass you just because you're a man of God or woman of God or whatever it might be. But the words that you say have power. And if you say negative words, remember our topic, those words will come back and haunt you. And that is the end of our message for today. Now, on the next episode, guys, we are going to talk about the faith, having faith when you pray. Do not just take your prayers on level 1, but some prayers, you need to take them to level 2. And that is what we're going to talk about on the next episode, guys. And I can't wait for us to go to that one. Don't just pray on level 1. Sometimes some prayers, take them to level 2. That's where you will win. And that is what we're going to talk about on the next episode. So do not miss it. But for today, guys, you heard the message. Keep in mind, some things, do not just do them and say things that you do not mean. For you have to live with them, and you have to also go through the consequences of them. May God bless you. So, guys, this is just an afterthought, right? Just food for thought, right? Just think about it. So the children of Israel didn't leave Egypt without knowing where they were going, right? So when they left Egypt, they knew that they were going to Canaan, right? The same thing with Elijah. When he left the brook, he knew he was going to the widow woman, right? So perhaps God does not just send you to places without you knowing that he's sending you somewhere else as well, right? So if you've been sent to a place and you don't know where that was, who is sending you, right? Who was it that sent you there? right? But then also, guys, keep in mind that God will not send you to a place where He will send you there so that you can be devoured and all of those things, and or cause you all kinds of problems. But He sends you to a place where He has already prepared for you. Children of Israel left Egypt to Canaan. Elijah left the brook to go to the widow woman. Keep that in mind, guys. Yeah, that was just it. So, yeah. So take your problems to God in prayer and have faith that God can be able to answer your prayer. And in doing so, God will turn your little something into something